Hey
Hey,
Ken,
Nicholas.
what's up, bud?
Hey, yeah, going great over here. How is everything for you?
Going really good, man. Going really good. I was just looking over your campaign results and holy guacamole. Have we gotten quite a few leads for you? I guess you see I wasn't lying when we spoke the first time
That's
uh
right. That's
about
right.
how good it all went. Do you want me to just dive
Nice.
right into the campaign and then you can hit me with questions as we go?
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds
Awesome,
wonderful. Thanks.
awesome, brother. Yeah, man. How you been doing? You been good?
Yeah, I've been good. Yeah, just cranking away. Going good. Yeah, how about you?
Oh, dude, killing it. Lead mining had our best October we've ever had last month, October, I'm sorry. August that we ever had. We broke 100K last month. So
Nice.
yeah,
Nice work.
just think, well, thanks to you. You placed a big order and that was
Right.
you know
Right.
but no, we've been super blessed, and I think just like you and every entrepreneur, my number one goal is to keep that momentum you
For
know
sure.
let's not let that snowball start rolling backwards.
Yeah, right, right.
We're already pushing it one way. um, but
I
yeah,
like
man.
that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's been good, dude.
So
So
true.
I'll give you a little week by week breakdown here. Okay.
Okay.
um which things are looking really good across the board. We're doing some cool stuff. I'll explain it all to you. So yeah,
Okay.
really crushing it. Week one, 2,000 dials, 185 people answered. That's huge. Okay, it's a great number.
Mm-hmm.
16 of those became a lead, and that's, I mean, stellar right there.
Okay.
To
Nice.
so what I generally tell people, just so you know, is we average about, you know, if you're getting two leads per 500 dials, you're doing an amazing job. Okay. Like you're at least going to see that's one lead per every 250 dials. If you think about that, right?
Right.
That's a lot of leads for a low amount of dials. Now, where
Mm-hmm.
you're at, just to give you an overview briefly, you're at one lead per 100 dials, basically,
Oh wow.
right now.
Nice.
Yeah, which is really stellar, so it's cool
Mm.
to see the numbers. So if someone's at two leads per 500, that's great, right? Let alone
Mm.
you're at five leads per 500, right? Is a cool calibrator. But yeah, so week one
Gotcha.
did great. I
Mm-hmm.
think you got blown up, and I think you were like, slow it down, we got to do 300 dials a day. Who could blame you? Who could blame you? And then the next week we actually dropped down, but we got the same amount of leads, which is really
Mm.
cool. So, we got 14 leads on 900 dials. That just stellar that week. Um,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
After things start, let's say, normalizing, the averages start to come into play a little bit more. We got a 7 leads on 1,000 dials. Now, this
Mm-hmm.
week, this is live. So this is our current progress, and we're back
Okay.
to killing it again. We got 5 leads on only 495 dials this week,
Nice.
which is really good. Now, some nerdier stuff that I'll explain to you is on your 4,300 dials, we had 523 people pick up the phone. Okay, now that's really good. That's almost a
Mm.
12% contact rate. Okay.
Okay.
Now, to give you some gauge or some understanding, 7 to 9 is good or
Mm-hmm.
decent. Okay. 9 to 11 is great. And then anything over 11, like you could brag to your friends about this, for example, that
I
are in.
gotcha.
Okay. Um,
Oh, okay.
and so those are good numbers. Then out of those, out of the 523 people we spoke to, 112 told us we had the wrong number. Okay. Which
Mm.
112 seems like a lot, but it's not, which means 79% of the people we spoke to told us that we were calling about the right piece of land. So we asked them if they own
Mm.
the land. So 79% of people actually own the piece of land we were calling about,
I
which is
see.
which is really good. So our accuracy was
Mm.
great, our contact rate was great, and our lead flow was great. 42
Mm-hmm.
leads on 4,300 dials. And also, if you do the math, sometimes I like to do this math that is how many leads did we generate divided by people that picked up the phone? So
Mm,
the math here is 8% of people we spoke to told us they wanted to sell. That's huge conversion ratio. Okay.
mm-hmm,
So 8% of these 523 told us that they were interested in selling. So that's a little nerdier perspective on your
mm.
campaign. I like to go over that stuff. But then I normally like to ask, how did things go on your side? I'm only looking at the numbers. So have you gotten any contracts yet? Anything there?
Uh, yeah, right now, so we're calling people and we're pretty aggressive. So we're offering 50% of market value. So
Okay,
it's really a numbers game for us.
good,
And so we're just kind of working all the leads. We left a lot of voicemails, haven't got a lot of callbacks. So I'm just kind of aggressively working the leads now,
good.
just kind of do a double dial and then like a text follow-up sort of a
Yeah,
thing.
love that. Love that. I was just gonna
And
say, every call should have a text. Hey, you spoke to my team about selling your property, and I always like to do
yeah,
that little text follow up. It's great.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So we're speaking to people, and some look promising. Like we've priced out the comps, and then what they're asking for it,
Yeah,
and they seem like that would be a good deal. Like that would hit our market criteria,
great.
and that's good. We just haven't gotten a hold of them yet. We've left them voicemails and sent texts and stuff. So we're,
It's been
but
hard to get them back on the phone. How quickly are you responding to them? So like if you get the lead, are you calling them the same day? Are you calling them the next day? What's your current flow?
so I've probably waited too long. I've waited maybe 3, 4 days because I'm doing it with a coach like who's a mentor of
Mm,
mine, and so I'm doing it
gotcha.
on those calls.
Gotcha.
So uh so we could be faster in getting them. Um
Yeah. One thing I might suggest, Kent, is for you to make the first call and then don't be technical, just be friendly. Just be yourself. When the lead comes in,
mhm,
try to call them within 24 hours and don't get technical. Hey, yeah, just want to touch base. Thank you. You spoke to my team. Maybe come up with 2 or 3 softball questions. So how long has this piece of land been in the family for? Like
mhm,
stuff that's easy to answer, but you can use in the future. So,
gotcha.
yeah. So, my suggestion might be to respond quicker, but don't get technical. Don't talk about selling. Just be friendly. Get them to like it and go, hey, you know what? Give me a couple days to do my diligence, and I'll come at you with a great offer. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah,
that
that
would
makes
probably be the
sense.
system. Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, because I could do that. For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it seems like speed to lead is such a crucial leading indicator of success. I mean, from my understanding, right?
Yeah.
If you get
So,
after it.
yeah. So, what a cool thing that I say is they already answered our phone number. So we know they're in the mood to talk to strangers. So the sooner you
Mm,
can talk to them after we speak to them, the better opportunity you're going to have. They're already in that mood, right? They're already all
yeah,
romanced up. And so
that makes sense.
the closer you are to that opportunity, the better, the more chance
Hmm.
which is why I don't even, don't get, just touch base. You just touch it. Hey
Just,
man, store me in your phone. The name's Kent. If you want, you could put
mm.
Kent Buyer if you wanted to. And, like kind of like plant seeds. You know what
Yep,
I mean?
plant
Like
seeds.
be super friendly. My whole mode, which I'm sure you can tell, is super friendly. Like, hey, no, not a care in the world. I'll work at your pace. I just wanted to get you on the phone and make sure you were real. And, that Joe really
Mm.
sent me over a lead, kind of, almost like they're thinking you're a scam, almost like return the energy. Like, I just wanted to see if you were a real person and if we were, if this was a real,
I
you're
see
almost
what you're saying.
flipping it on them. You know what I
Flip
mean?
it on them now.
Yeah.
Have a different dynamic. Put them on the a little bit defensive. Like, no, no, no. I
Yeah.
promise I'm real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right, exactly. And and just keep it fun, would be, and that way you don't have too high pressure where you think you like need to chat with your mentor. But I agree with what you're doing. If you have a
Right.
mentor, I just spoke to a student, a client earlier. If he's got a mentor, I said, when you book that call, these leads should be the only thing you guys are talking about on that call.
Yeah.
So you're doing the
For
right thing there.
for sure. Yeah. So it's like we have like 3 book calls per week, for an hour. We're just like calling them back, and like I'm doing comps, I'm doing due diligence, he's doing comps, he's doing due diligence. we're trying
That's
to hit the
awesome.
same number. So I'm trying to close the gap. So I'm
Mm,
emulating him,
I
and
love
then
that.
we're
Yeah.
calling back. Yeah.
That's actually I really like that system. Who are you currently coaching through? Who's your
This
team?
is Jaron Barnes of Land
German.
Mavericks,
Okay.
and he kind of came from REI Tipster earlier with Seth Williams, I believe it
Yeah.
is.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
and
Very
so
cool.
uh, so yeah, so yeah, things are looking promising. Some folks are a little bit irrational,
With the
so we're
price.
kind
Yeah.
of yeah, so we're kind of like prioritizing the leads,
Yeah. Good call.
um, and then um, and then some actually, I think it's from the data we pulled. We pulled it from PropStream, but some of them actually have like house structures, and that's kind of out of our buying criteria,
Sure.
uh, or stuff like that. Um, but yeah, some, and then some we have made offers, and they're like, no, no, thanks. And then some
Yeah.
are more easygoing. They're like, well, not right now, but you can follow up with me. So that sort of a
Sure.
thing.
Okay.
Let's see here. And then I'm wondering, um, is it possible? So we got a good, is it possible to like audit the calls more or listen in? We
Yeah.
got,
So you're saying you want some recordings? What if you want? One thing that you can do is you can request call recordings at like the end of every week. You know,
okay.
since I can't automate it, I ask that you just ask for like 5 or 10 at a time. So that way it's easy on us. But you could always email us and say, hey, could I get 10 not interested recordings, or could you send me
Oh,
10 leads? So we will always deliver everything to you as long as you email and ask for it.
okay, gotcha. And I can just email support, I think,
Yep,
right? Is it
that's right.
highway or
Yeah, hi,
highwell?
well, yep.
Highwell. Okay. Gotcha. Okay, very good. Yeah, I mean, because I'm just kind of interested to your process and what you guys are going through. I
Yeah,
know you're doing the dials and stuff and you have the script, but I'm kind of curious the reactions and for the ones that are interested and not, and
sure. Yeah, what
um,
it sounds like.
what
Yeah,
it sounds like
yeah,
exactly. And then let's see here. I'm probably our number one thing is to qualify the seller. And so I'm wondering if we could we um have different questions or new questions, or you guys pretty well do you like the questions you have?
well, yeah. So I mean, I think it depends. I like to, the questions we have, it's who we use for, it's what we use for everybody. I think it
Okay.
depends on like the changes you want to make. If you want, you can send over a script of proposed questions. The way I like to do things is
Hmm.
I really feel like there's one way to do things. So if we're calling land guys, I wouldn't, and every land person has the same type of list, right? It's just landowners. Then I don't
Right.
really do all these different scripts. Now,
I see.
if you want, but when I do make changes, but when I make changes, I make them to everybody, right? So it's
Mm,
like that's kind of the way our houses has been too. It's like, I tell people all the time, if you're just calling for a cold call on a house, you're not going to find a better script than ours. And it's what my team is like super proficient in too. But
hmm.
it doesn't mean that there's not better ways to say things. So one thing I would say is if you have like a proposed some edits you want to make, you can always email those over to me or my team and say, hey, put these in front of Nick. I would love to make some edits. And then I'll go over those and we could look, and I can either, because the thing is, we've done a lot. So
Gotcha.
there's a lot of reasons why we
Because
don't say things that other people are like, oh, you should say this, or, why don't you reference
hmm.
that we mailed them? Or, it's like, there's reasons why we don't in some cases, right? Because maybe we tried it in the past and it didn't work. So
Mm,
I'll either explain to you why we don't
uh-huh.
do it that way, or I'm like, hey, this is a great idea. I'm going to implement this right away, you know?
I gotcha. Fair enough. Yeah, because kind of what I'm thinking of is figuring out that sweet spot between like the number of leads, like quantity versus quality and qualifiers, and how big or small. And so I think some of like my coaches, mostly his questions, he was like, well, if we can hone in on motivation, and I'm happy to send these over and kind of get your feedback. But if we
Sure.
can hone in on motivation early, then we might be able to eliminate them. If they're like, oh, I'm not motivated, I'm never selling this land, then because otherwise, if we don't know that, then I can still do due diligence and comps, but they have no way of they'll like never sell me the land at my criteria.
Sure.
So
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out the filter that
So
cuts
one thing,
off.
so one thing that we're doing that I think is going to help is for land, we just started this today. We're not going to ask them how much they want to sell for anymore. So
Okay,
I don't think for land, that's a very important question. And I think when we ask people that, we're starting the conversation higher. Okay.
I
And I
gotcha.
think with houses, it's different. There's Zillow, right? You can go right to Zillow and see
Right.
what every house sold for and how much your estimation is. And I think it's a better question for houses than it is
Hmm.
for land. So I think one thing that's really going to help is we're not going to be allowing them to anchor down on a big price, you know. And
Right.
I think that that is a little bit of what they're doing now. But if you want to come up with some good questions that help determine their motivation, definitely send those
Because
over to me, you know.
yeah, because I don't want to knock out anyone who's qualified, but I would like to knock out people who are unqualified.
Right,
And so what we need is so we for our process we have to qualify the land, but then we also have to qualify the seller. So we need a
right.
reasonable seller and we need land that fits the criteria. And I feel like the more scarcer is a reasonable seller who's like motivated, who wants to do a deal. Like there are
Right.
more
Well,
land
so that's the
parcels.
thing. So it's like, just to share with you, it also depends on the kind of seller you're going for, right? People that are distressed, like they're distressed, they're not reasonable. So it's like you also need to, I think, nail down your avatar a little bit better. So in my opinion, there's two land sellers. There's a land seller that's distressed and sells at a discount because he has to. And then there's a land seller that's not distressed, doesn't know or give a shit about the value of their land. They just don't want it anymore. And I think that those are really your avatars, right? The more distressed they are, the more unreasonable they're going to be, but the lower that price is going to be, right? The less
Hmm.
distressed they are, the more reasonable they're going to be, but the less of a chance you're going to have to get the price aligned, you know? And so it's like,
Hmm.
I just want to share that. So the thing about cold calling is what it does is it opens it wide up. So I would say is try to work with your mentor and come up with a question that you think would help deter, or a couple questions if you want, you think would help determine more motivation. You know, we do ask them why they're considering selling, but you know, that's not very probing, right? Now, if
Mm.
you could clearly, if you're like, well, hey, if they said this, or this, then that's definitely awesome. Now,
'Cause
the way my team would work is we don't, no matter what, we wouldn't not send you the lead, just so you know. But you could go right to that question and go,
right.
at least they asked it, if that makes sense. So that's something that we can definitely do for you. If you can help me come up with those questions, I can definitely get them asked for you.
Right, because if they're just like I have a firm price, I know my price, I'm not going to sell unless I get my price, and you called me, if you want to pay it, that's fine. And then that would be a lead like, well, we're not going to be able to make a deal given that,
Right.
that they they want a firm price, they have no motivation for selling. But if we can, it's where it's like, no, I'm in the mood to make a deal. Either I don't care about the land or I have to sell the land. So getting that to
Well,
be
and I will say, like, on that, like, you still want that lead, because the difference in a non-distressed person and distressed person is a catastrophic event. So the thing is, like, even if someone isn't distressed, you really should call and talk to them no matter what. If
I
the price
gotcha.
doesn't line up, the price doesn't line up. But I would just be like, hey, we're not for everybody. Anything happens, please store my cell phone number. You know
I
what I mean?
gotcha.
Because,
Right.
don't catastrophe is right around the corner. You know,
Hmm.
this sounds, I'll give you two examples. My mom is getting her she's a doctor office calls her, and the doctor herself made the call. And he goes, "Why isn't Sally calling me? Sally always calls."
Mm.
And he said Sally was eating lunch last week and choked and died. And I actually have to make all the calls. We haven't even replaced her yet. She passed
Yikes.
away. And I
Wow.
mean, my mom called me to tell me that. She's like, Nick, life is it changes so fast. You
Yep.
know, the other day, my girlfriend's sister goes in for an MRI. They find something on her brain. Right. And so
Mm.
I just share this with you, not for pity or anything like that, of course, but just the sheer understanding that with these people, when they're not ready yet, the next best thing I think you can do is get them to like you and call you when they are ready again. So
Makes sense.
what I would do is I don't disagree that that's a less than ideal lead, right? But at the same time, to get that perfect sweet spot with cold calling, what you're kind of referring to is really more of a direct mail-y. Direct mail is hotter leads and it's easier. The cold call is a kind of a vaguer shotgun. So what happens is our systems that we create to serve the leads end up putting them in buckets. So I think one thing is like, this is a follow-up. Hey, super friendly. Hey, I don't think our prices are going to match up, but I'm extremely interested in your land. Okay. I don't want to insult you with an offer unless you're open to hearing it. No,
I
you're
got
not.
it.
No, you're not open to hearing it. Great. Well, dude, do me a favor. You can tell I'm a reasonable guy. I'm not being rude here. Store my cell phone number, put it as Kent Buyer, and then call me if anything
Yeah,
changes, man. Let me be the first one to make an offer if something happens.
I
Like
got
just,
it.
you know what I mean? And then you don't ever have to think of that lead again, in my opinion. Maybe you put it into a follow-up drip once a month touch or
Yep.
something. But that way, because those are also, you close one or two of those and you'll change your whole mind about those leads, right?
Yeah,
If
that's a
that
great
makes sense.
point.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Kent, I do have to go. I'm so
Yep.
sorry. I got a call at 1:30. If you want, I'm totally down to meet with you again tomorrow. I can send you a link or to book a call. And I love these chats, and I would
For
love to help
sure.
you iron this out as well.
I would say let me kind of work things and then maybe in a week or so, give
Yeah,
me some more data and feedback. That sounds great.
absolutely. Yeah,
All right, awesome.
you know I'm here, brother. If you need anything in the meantime,
Perfect.
okay. And sorry to cut it short. This meeting just popped up on me.
All
Uh,
right, very good. I'll be in touch. Thanks a
yeah,
lot,
I'll see you,
Nicholas.
brother.
All right, see you. Bye.